What's up, guys? Let me know when you're in so I can get this here going. You guys give me a thumbs up. When you guys come in, let me know when you're here. What's up, guys? Let me know when you're in. All right, what's up, Charles? Good to see ya. We're going to get everything up and going. We're just going to go over a couple videos today, folks. I thought they're pretty interesting. One of them is going to be about donating to cops. And I guess we
Police
can take a
officers
look
are
at
going to be getting.
this one first. And then we're going to go into the Uvalde case and what we've been talking about for a long time as far as officer safety being cowardice and public safety being heroism. If you guys can hear me good, give me a thumbs up really quick or give me a 1. That way I can know we are good to go. What's up, everybody? Fish fam, let me get some shout outs here. Becky, oh, good to see you. Darth Moore, Charles, DJ Eddie, Damien, Manuel, David. Good to see everybody here. All right, let's get right to the video. Let's start playing and playing the video, see what we can learn from this.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Misfit Corner Scams. This is the artist knows Andrew speaking. Yeah, it's time for a couple more scam calls. Everybody gets these. They're robocalls. They're for some charity, whether it's the police, the firefighters, the vets, whatnot. Do not give money to these people, ever. Ask some very specific questions like I do. Ask them how much money actually goes towards the people they're collecting for, and also ask where the actual money goes. You might be surprised at both those answers. And this time, I got back-to-back calls for the police officers, and I'm always asking questions, and heaven forbid should they hang up on me when you ask simple, basic questions. But do the same. Ask questions before you give anybody your money. Matter of fact, don't ever give money to these people, ever. These robocallers, nope, don't do it. If you're going to give to a charity, give directly to the firefighters, the police association, the vets.
No, don't do that, guys.
Don't
They already
give to
get
these
paid.
robocalls because you'll be
So,
surprised at how much actually
don't
goes,
give your
or
money
how much
away.
they claim actually goes to the people they're collecting for. You'd be surprised. The second one actually gave me a number.
I got a better tip. How about donating something or giving something, a gift to your neighbor? I bet you if you give gifts to your neighbors, they will always look out for you guys. They'll always look out for your house. Do that instead. Don't go giving money to cops.
To call to get more information, and lo and
Give me a
behold,
thumbs
you'd
up
be
if you like
shocked.
that.
Nobody's there to take the call. They just let you leave a message, which I did. Enjoy, and we'll catch you all next time. Oh, I forgot the most important thing. Get a call like this, hang up on them.
They say no audio. Can you guys actually hear the iPad? Give me a 1 if you guys can hear the iPad. Because if we can't hear the iPad, there's something wrong.
Or, better yet, do what as I do, and screw with them. Alright, I changed that around a little bit, but my regulars, they know what I'm talking about. Enjoy, guys. Yes?
Hi, good afternoon. This is John calling from the Florida Police and Troopers Association. Ma'am, the reason for the recorded call is that the officers just started their yearly benefit drive, and as a paid fundraiser for Good America, we're sending out the new pledge kit to all supporting residents. The goal of the drive is to help provide up-to-date training for law enforcement in Florida and death benefits to the families of member officers killed in the line of duty. So, ma'am, we receive your official receipt and return envelope. Can these officers count on your one-time support?
Well, what percentage of the donations actually go to the police officers?
In order to comply with state law required to the Florida Police and Troopers Association, will receive no less than 15% of the gross proceeds after expense. If you'd like more information, I can give you a number to call.
15%, that's it? Oh. Guess he wasn't even going to waste time on asking, giving me the information. We need to call that number back.
Hello, and thank you for calling. Unfortunately, all representatives are busy at the moment. If you would like to be placed on our do not call list, please press 1.
So what I'm gathering from this is it's not even a scam. It's an actual somebody going out and getting donations for the cops, and they're giving them 15%. In this guy's eyes, he's basically telling us not to give to the scammers, to go give to the cops. I'm letting you guys know that don't give to either one. Don't give to the scammers and don't give donations to the cops. Go give your donations to friends and family, folks. I'm sure they're struggling and shit out there. That's even if you have money to give. Many of us don't even have extra money to give. So, I mean, don't go giving your money to cops. It's a freaking scam all the way around. This guy had that part right. All right, let's get back into this.
By now, I think everyone has heard of what happened
right
in Uvalde,
Pay attention
Texas.
to this, guys.
I'm not going to go into detail, and new facts are coming to light every single day. But one thing it seems is certain is that the police, to put it charitably, did not act in a way that most people wanted them to act. By all accounts, there was a very long delay between the time that the police arrived on scene and when they...
Let me straighten that up, what this guy just said. It's not the fact that people wanted them to act this way. The parents needed them to act this way. The people that were watching needed police to act in a way where they were going to go in and save the kids. They don't, they're not upset because, for any other reason other than their kids died. That's the bottom line. Do they have a duty to intervene? That's, from my understanding, that's policy in some police stations. But for the most part, if they're in fear for their lives, they don't have to act. There's one thing that this guy gets right, and it's the fact that police don't have a duty to protect you. Direct D just put out a video, and it's really good, and it's the same thing about police not having a duty to protect you. So let's keep watching.
Took action to stop the shooter. So, people angry at the tragedy are asking, can the police be held legally responsible, not for their action, but for their inaction? And I'm not going to hide the ball on this one. The answer is almost certainly no. But the reason why might surprise you, because most people believe that the police have a legal duty to help. And unfortunately, according to the Supreme Court, that is not the case. While their motto may be to protect and serve, the police have absolutely no duty whatsoever to help anyone that's in trouble. Now, normally this would be the part of the video where I run through the factual summary that gives rise to all of the legal issues. I'm not going to do that today because honestly, it's just too hard. But these are important legal issues, and this is one of those videos where it's not about what the law should be, it's about what the law is. Now, we've talked a lot on this channel about the difficulty in suing police for the things that they do, the mistakes they might have made. Qualified immunity generally protects police officers unless it was clearly established that what they did was unconstitutional. There are all kinds of controversies in this doctrine. This is not the video for those particular questions. But the question presented by the Uvalde shooting is different. Here we're asking whether government officials can be sued for actions they did not take. Now, the Supreme Court has ruled twice that government actors like police and social workers actually have no duty to protect anyone.
I will say this, guys. I have seen police officers protect buildings and walls more than they did protect those children. When, for instance, we're doing a First Amendment audit and the cops get called, they come out in chinga, they come out fast, lights fucking blaring, sirens, hauling ass. And in this case, they didn't do shit. There was a shooter inside with a gun, and I'm gonna tell you how they're pretending to want to solve this problem, okay? They want to make more guns illegal, and they want to give cops more, machine guns and all kinds of stuff. They want to militarize the police more. They want to militarize the police and take more guns away from the people. That shit's not going to work, folks. That is not going to work. Keep watching.
This precedent was established in 1989 when the Supreme Court decided the case of DeShaney versus Winnebago County Department of Social Services. In that case, in 1982, Joshua DeShaney was a 4-year-old boy living with his father Randy in Wisconsin. Randy had primary custody of the child and had recently gone through a second divorce.
Pay attention to this, guys, because he's going to explain DeShaney versus Winnebago County, and basically shows how they don't have a duty to protect you guys. What's up, Direct D? Welcome in. I just let everybody know that you had a really good video this morning, showing pretty much this exact same thing.
Joshua's stepmother told the Winnebago County Department of Social Services that Randy abused his son. Randy denied it, and the county took no action to remove the child. However, in 1983, Joshua was seen at the ER for bruises. The ER doctor notified social services, and Joshua was removed from Randy's custody for a few days. Randy wasn't charged, and the child was returned to his custody. A social worker was assigned to visit the home. And in 1984, the social worker visited the house 20 times, noting that the child had bumps, bruises, and injuries on his head. The social worker also documented that Randy failed to attend his regular counseling sessions or enroll Joshua in preschool. And during this time, Joshua ended up in the ER twice with suspicious injuries. The social worker said that she feared for his life but took no action to remove him from the home. And unfortunately, in March of 1984, one day after the social worker's visit, Randy beat Joshua so hard that he fell into a coma. Joshua had severe brain damage and was permanently paralyzed. The state then placed Joshua in an institution where he would remain for the rest of his life. Joshua DeShaney's mother sued the Winnebago County Department of Social Services, alleging that the department had deprived Joshua of his liberty, interest in bodily integrity, in violation of his rights under the substantive component of the 14th Amendment's Due Process Clause, by failing to intervene to protect him against his father's violence. Now, the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment declares that no state shall deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. DeShaney argued that the county had a responsibility to protect Joshua because it knew Randy abused him. The social worker had tracked the abuse on paper for over a year. DeShaney argued that through the social worker's visits, the state had established a special relationship with Joshua that created a responsibility to protect him from known dangers. Then Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, William Rehnquist, wrote the majority opinion, which found that the Due Process Clause only applies to states, not to private citizens. Since Randy was the one who beat his son, the court reasoned that the state didn't directly cause Joshua's injuries. And the majority also rejected the argument that the state made Joshua more vulnerable. The purpose of the Due Process Clause, quote, was to protect people from the state, not to ensure that the state protected them from each other. The court held that the 14th Amendment did not grant any citizen a guarantee of, quote, minimal levels of safety and security. The court also said that people have no right to governmental aid. The court held that the Due Process Clause would only apply if the state had assumed custody of a person against their will and then failed to provide for their safety and general well-being. Justice Brennan and the two other dissenters saw it another way. They believed that since the state had acted through the social work department, they assumed the responsibility for the child's safety. The dissenters said that if the state had never intervened, then others in Joshua's life, like his mother, might have taken other actions to get him away from Randy. And basically, in the DeShaney case, what happens is that a mother is worried that her son, who's in the custody of the father, is being abused by the father. She goes to the police. They send social workers out. A social worker visits 20 times, sees lots and lots of evidence of abuse. Ultimately, the social services doesn't do enough, and the child is horribly and permanently injured by the father, in large part because social services allowed the child to remain with the husband. Now, there are obvious differences between what happened in Uvalde and a social worker who fails to remove a child from a violent parent. But that takes us to the 2005 case of the town of Castle Rock, Colorado versus Gonzalez, where the Supreme Court applied the same rationale to a case involving the police. Now, in that case, Jessica Gonzalez had asked for a restraining order against her estranged husband. There was a Colorado law that made domestic violence restraining orders mandatory whenever one party felt threatened. And the state trial court issued an order prohibiting the husband from seeing Miss Gonzalez or their 3 daughters unless it was through a pre-arranged visit. Now, just 1 month later, the husband kidnapped the 3 children. Miss Gonzalez had direct evidence that he had the kids because he confirmed it on the phone. She begged the police to search for her husband right away since he violated the court order. Now, the Castle Rock Police Department told Miss Gonzalez that it could do nothing and told her she had to wait until 10 p.m. to see if her husband brought the daughters home. At 10 p.m., the police told Jessica to wait until midnight. At midnight, she went to the police station to beg them to arrest her husband. An officer took the report and then went to dinner. A few hours later, Gonzalez's husband went to the police station and opened fire. Police killed him in the melee. And when they searched his truck, they found the 3 girls dead in the back. Gonzalez's husband had murdered all 3 that night. Ms. Gonzalez sued the Castle Rock Police Department for violating her due process rights. And the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals found that she had a, quote, protected property interest in the enforcement of the terms of her restraining order, which the police had violated. But the Supreme Court reversed that decision, ruling that Gonzalez had no constitutionally protected property interest in the enforcement of the restraining order, and therefore could not claim that the police had violated her right to due process. Justice Antonin Scalia wrote the majority opinion. He reasoned that the state law didn't entitle anyone to mandatory action by police, even though the issuance of the restraining order was mandatory under Colorado law. Restraining orders provide the grounds for arresting a person constrained to the order, but that doesn't mean that the recipient can force the police to act. Scalia wrote that under the Colorado law, police have discretion to decide whether to enforce an order, and if so, how they would do so. The court concluded that, quote, since Colorado had not created such an entitlement to mandatory action, Gonzalez had no property interest and the due process clause was therefore inapplicable. The court ultimately concluded that unless a legislature specifically said, we're creating this right, and if we breach it, the private citizen can then sue the government, then the citizen is out of luck. And as one court put it, quote, law enforcement officers often consider themselves responsible for protecting the public and deterring criminal activity. However, the legal doctrine that specifies the legal duty of law enforcement officers holds that they have a duty to the public, but not to individual citizens. This is what's known as the public duty doctrine. The doctrine means that the officers don't have a duty to protect citizens from harm by a third party. In other words, there is no clear duty to protect individual citizens. Now, that being said, the DeShaney decision recognized 2 possible exceptions to the general rule that the state has no duty to protect people from harm. The first is what's called the special relationship exception, which holds that the Constitution imposes upon the state a duty of care towards individuals who are in its custody. As is usually summarized, quote, when the state takes a person into its custody and holds him there against his will, the Constitution imposes upon it a corresponding duty to assume some responsibility for his safety and well-being. So when the state has a special relationship with someone, there may be a duty to protect. If this relationship exists, the state official must take reasonable steps to ensure the safety and care of that person and to safeguard them against foreseeable risks. However, most courts say that the only time the state forms a special relationship is through incarceration, institutionalization, or other similar restraint of personal liberty. And most courts reject the theory that people waiting to be rescued are in police custody and control. This is particularly true in the Fifth Circuit, and perhaps the most analogous Fifth Circuit case is Salas versus Carpenter, where a county clerk was taken hostage at the courthouse by her abusive boyfriend. And during the hostage negotiation, the sheriff ordered that the city SWAT and hostage negotiation teams leave the courthouse. He then replaced them with county personnel not trained for SWAT or hostage negotiations. The man killed the county clerk. And the Fifth Circuit sided with the sheriff, finding that he did not violate her constitutional rights by using untrained negotiators. The court said, quote, generally the absence of a special relationship defeats any due process claim based on a failure to provide protective services. The victim was not held in state custody or otherwise prevented by the state from caring for herself. This was a failed rescue effort. And it's easy to see how the Fifth Circuit, which covers Texas, would probably make the same call in the hypothetical Uvalde case. The police were doing something. They were securing the parking lot and stopping parents from getting inside where they might get hurt. And just because the effort failed, and failed badly, probably wouldn't change the Fifth Circuit's analysis. But under the DeShaney case, there is a second.
So let me ask you guys something. If it's federally illegal, right, to take a gun onto any school property, but for instance, in this case where there was a shooter killing and shooting kids, does that law still stand? You know, for instance, if a person was carrying a weapon or a firearm, can go in there and protect their own children. If I'm not mistaken, we have a right to protect our families, ourselves and our families. And that's why I think it's important to not take guns away. Because look, here's one thing we have to understand when it comes to guns. Murder is already illegal, right? So has that stopped anybody from killing people? No, people still do it. It's been illegal for a long time, but people still kill people. When you take guns away from the people, you're basically taking guns away from law-abiding citizens, and not the criminals. The criminals are still going to get guns. Most of the time, a lot of the criminals that are out committing crimes with guns, they don't have those guns registered to them, so they get guns anyways. That's how a lot of folks get away with murders, because they can't trace it back to somebody. So let's just think about that for a second. They're trying to take guns away from the people, and they don't want people to be heroes. The cops just want to be the heroes themselves, but at the same time, they're going to stand outside protecting the parking lot like this guy just said. That shit is embarrassing, folks. It's mind-boggling how twisted government is, and they're trying to dumb down the people to make the people believe that the government is going to protect us. How the fuck is the government going to protect us? This guy just finished telling you 3 different case laws that says government hasn't had a duty to protect you, does not have a duty to protect you, and will not have a duty to protect you in the future. So if and when they take the guns away from the people, they're still not going to have a duty to protect you. They're going to be the only ones carrying guns, and you're not going to have a say in protecting your families anymore. I don't see how this is going to be a sustainable system, folks. Keep watching.
An exception, and that is called the state-created danger exception. And under that theory, some courts have recognized that state officials have a duty to protect individuals from harm when their actions created or exacerbated a danger to that individual. But here it seems like this exception wouldn't apply. The police didn't help, at least not in the way that most people wanted them to help, but at the same time, they also did not create the situation itself. Now, those of you that have been paying attention might have come up with a legal theory that might differentiate what happened in Uvalde, Texas from the prior precedent. And that is that children are mandated to go to school. Often, those schools are provided by the government. And in this case, this massacre occurred at a public school. So aren't the children within the custody of the government? And doesn't the government then have an obligation to provide for the health and safety of the children, especially a school that has a police officer and a school district that has its own police department? Well, it's complicated, but it probably doesn't turn out the way that you might want. Because unfortunately, this is not the first time there has been a massacre on school campus. And a relatively recent case is almost directly on subject. And that is the case arising out of the Parkland situation. In late 2020, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals cited the Castle Rock and DeShaney cases and dismissed a lawsuit brought by the victims of the Parkland, Florida shooting at the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School.
The best way to get a hold of me, guys, is through my email, recordpolicenow@gmail.com. Even though that's the best way to get a hold of me, I am still backed up because I've been busy and I haven't been able to answer everyone's emails and share everyone's videos. So that's the best way to get a hold of me, recordpolicenow@gmail.com. Don't be afraid to send me a couple different emails to make sure that I don't forget about you guys. All right.
Now there, the students allege that the county sheriff and deputies incompetently responded to an active shooter situation, violating their due process rights. The deputies knew that the shooter was a danger to the community, and school officials had also known that the shooter was deeply troubled and had made threats. The plaintiffs alleged that the deputies had failed to intervene during the shooting, and they also noted that one deputy prevented EMS from providing life-saving care and blocking them from entering the school during the shooting. The 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, which is one step below the Supreme Court, found that a plaintiff could only allege a substantive due process claim in 2 situations. First, when the person was in the government's custody, and second, when government officials' conduct is arbitrary or shocks the conscience. Now, first, the court held that the children were not in police custody, and as far as shocking the conscience, the court held that in an active shooter situation, police have to make split-second decisions in the midst of chaos. In this situation, quote, an official's conduct will shock the conscience only when it stems from a, quote, purpose to cause harm. That means that a plaintiff can only sue if they can show that the government officer purposefully caused harm. If the police officer didn't intend hurt anyone, then they can't be sued. And with respect to whether the children were in government custody, the court held, quote, it is well established that school children are not in a custodial.
Damn, I'm gonna pin this comment right here, Steve. I think that's a good comment right here. When the kids are in school, they are in custody of the state, therefore should be protected. How about that, folks? Right? If you don't send your kids to school, they're gonna send freaking child protective services over to your house, right? But they're not gonna protect your kids if you send them to school and there's a shooter. I think that's a good comment. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think that will bring an argument for the lawsuit. If and when there's a lawsuit filed, I think that's a good argument. You know, when you take your kids and you drop them off at school, they should have a duty to protect the kids because they are in custody of a state-funded installation, right? I mean, give me a 1 if you guys like that comment. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Relationship with the state. A custodial relationship exists only if the government places limitations upon individual's ability to act on his own behalf that are similar in kind to incarceration or other forms of involuntary confinement. School attendance, even when compelled by truancy and compulsory attendance laws, is not similar in kind to incarceration or institutional confinement. Ordinarily, there are no custodial relationships in the public school system, even if officials are aware of potential dangers or have expressed an intent to provide aid on school grounds. And in the Parkland case, the biggest controversy was about Scott Peterson, a Broward County Sheriff's deputy and school resource officer. Peterson stayed outside of a school building for over 40 minutes as students and faculty members were gunned down. And the state of Florida charged Peterson with neglect under a statute that applies to caregivers. Now, this is generally a novel interpretation of the law, which usually applies to parents or adult household members or teachers. Now, Peterson will stand trial on this criminal case. But the 11th Circuit dismissed the civil case against Peterson for the same reasons it dismissed the cases against other defendants. That the students were not in a custodial relationship with the officials, even the school's armed resource officer. A lot of people disagree with this particular ruling, and it can be solved with legislation. But as it currently stands, there is no inherent cause of action based on the Constitution that would allow parents and teachers and victims to sue the police for inaction at Uvalde. And unfortunately, that is the current state of the law. Now, if you'd like to actually do some good, one thing I can recommend is a company I work with called Tab for a Cause, which lets you raise money for the charity of your choice.
Watch out, homie. I don't do free promotions and shit. The fuck? Yeah, I just got hit up on Instagram from We the People University. He apparently created this app and he wants to sponsor me to promote it on my channel. I mean, I don't know about that. I mean, it's pretty cool, I guess, to show, you know, people their rights. There was one thing on the app, like a section that says, know your stop and ID states statutes. Well, ultimately, I think it's important to remind everybody on there that there really is no stop and ID state. That's a misnomer. It really doesn't exist. It's a brilliant idea and terminology that somebody had to make people believe that they live in a stop and ID state where the cops can just stop you and ID you. And all 50 states, there is absolutely no stop and ID state. They still need RAS, reasonable articulable suspicion, to detain you. To arrest you, they still need SAF, single articulable fact that you committed a crime. So I think it's important to point that out before I would even consider putting that on my channel to promote it. I think that needs to be kind of adjusted. I don't want to promote any kind of misinformation. I also want to give a disclaimer for my channel, this channel and the main channel as well. Pay attention to this, folks. This is important. It's important to me, and it should be important to you guys and everybody else that does these kinds of videos. The fact that we are not making, I'm only going to speak for myself here. I personally don't make these videos to help criminals get away with committing crimes. We do these videos. I started this channel with the idea that the viewer is innocent. I mean, if you're watching YouTube, you shouldn't be out fucking robbing banks, right? Shit like that. I don't want criminals to use, you know, what we teach on our channels to get away with shit. That being said, I also have a understanding of victimless crimes. I do believe that a lot of times cops will go out there and try to violate your rights. Or, you know, they use this thing called discretion, where if you commit some kind of infraction, a victimless crime, cops have the ability to let you go or cite you, and even beat the shit out of you and take you to jail if you don't want to sign the ticket. It's insane how policing is done, folks. So, but I've been thinking about that a lot lately. I was watching a video that I'm working on right now, and this video in particular, it shows, and We the People University did the exact same video, but he didn't point this out, and I want to point this out really quick. There was a video, let me see if I have it right here in my history really quick. As you can see, I like Primus. I was listening to Primus all morning. Let me see where that video is. Here we go, right here. All right, we'll watch a little bit of this video, and I'll let you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Like I said, good evening.
Hi, how are you?
Good. My name is Officer Weaver, McKee Police Department.
Okay, what's your badge number?
My badge number is 304. What's your name, please?
I don't answer questions. You ran my plate already.
I did not run your plate.
Okay, you can run the plate.
Yeah, I know I can run your plate because I have a legal right to do so.
Is this a traffic stop?
This is, I'm conducting an investigation.
Okay, so I don't need to answer your questions.
What's up, Wolfie?
Well,
Oh yeah, brother, good to
If
see
you
you.
hinder my investigation, you can be cited for that.
Okay.
Okay?
First of all, this cop is going to ask about 101 questions. He's going to ask a bunch of questions, folks. And keep this in mind. Cops are trained to do this, okay? Cops are trained to ask you questions. They're trained to ask you for ID. And asking for these things, it's not a violation of your rights. Now, making you think you have to answer or you're going to go to jail, I believe, is a violation of your rights. Good to see you, Reluctant Prophet and Wolfie. Welcome in, guys. My good amigos. So, having said that, in this video, I watched this video a couple times and I'm trying to pay attention to exactly what's going on here. First of all, there's a couple weird things about this video, okay? Me and my wife was kind of looking into this and we seen some things that were a little weird. First of all, on the top, on his hat, it says McKee Police. And under his name, Jay Weaver, it says McKee Police. All right? But this fool pulled up in the sheriff's unit, right? Is that what they call it? A sheriff's fucking SUV. Look it over here on the right. That shit says sheriff on it, right? So how do we know this cop's not a fake cop? He's got police on his hat, sheriff on the damn vehicle, and I gotta tell you something else. There's no website for the McKee Police Department. There's no website for the county sheriff. All they have is a P.O. box to send them letters, guys. That shit is hella weird, huh? Okay, so, and this video takes place in the state of Kentucky. So I'm still gonna do this video, and I'm gonna give you guys a quick breakdown of what you guys are gonna be seeing in my version of this video on my breakdown. First and foremost, okay, this cop was called there. He's gonna say he was called there because there was a kid around 12 years old who was running around naked. To me, in my opinion, that's a legitimate call, and that's a legitimate reason for this cop to be here. We don't want perverts out there doing stupid shit to kids, getting away with it. If somebody sees something with kids hella weird, then fucking call, right? And get him out there to investigate. having said that, okay, that's what the officer said. So in my opinion, the officer asking some questions, doing what he's got to do to try to investigate, he's doing a good job. You know, there is a couple times where he starts to tell the guy that he could possibly get arrested for hindering or get cited. That's where I think the officer is crossing the line, where he's trying to threaten the guy. At the end of the video, the supervisor is going to show up. He's going to go talk to the supervisor. He's going to come back, and what he says to the man, the videographer, is, in my opinion, it's outstanding. He basically tells him what they would have to write down on their report, right? I went and investigated. Word for word, the way these guys know how to write their fucking paperwork so that they can get away, the verbiage that they use so that they can basically wipe their hands clean from a situation like this, right? Let's just assume that we're going to assume two different things here. That the videographer is hella guilty and he maybe has something to do with this kid running around naked, and he's knows his rights, watched our videos, he knows how to get away with it. If that's the case, what can the officer do? He's gonna do on this video, at the end of the video, what he can do. Now let's assume that the man is innocent. What would have happened if the officer would demand ID, detain him, take him out of the vehicle, put him in cuffs, separate the kids, ask them questions? That's a civil rights violation, right? Fourth Amendment. And so when the supervisor shows up, he goes and talks to the supervisor, and he comes back and he basically tells him, look, there's nothing I can do. I'm gonna let you guys hear that. Let's fast forward a little bit. Let's see where he goes and talks to the supervisor, and then he comes back. Because when he comes back, he says some things that I believe that's exactly what he would have said on the report after writing it. Now let's just say, like I said, this man is hella guilty. He takes off and something ends up happening to this kid. We just seen that cops are not responsible for the safety of kids, the people. They don't have that duty to intervene. They really don't. So let's pay attention to his words, what he's gonna say right now. Like I said, when I'm watching this, I'm thinking, holy shit, this is exactly word for word what he would have written down on the report. Something happens to this kid, the guy takes off, something happens to this kid, the cop wipes his hands clean, free of any responsibility. Pay attention.
I spoke with Deputy Bobby Edwards with the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, and I conferred with him and asked him, you know, I don't want to violate your rights. I am conducting an investigation, okay? And I feel like I do have reasonable suspicion that something could be amiss here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But
Like what?
But you have two juveniles in your car,
Okay.
in the area that the complaint was called.
I've already
Yeah.
clarified that these are my children.
Yes, that's
and,
correct.
and you're scaring them.
Well, you know, the only thing that I know to tell you is something I learned a long time ago. I can't provide security, which is part of being a police officer, without some form of, what was the word? Without a little bit of discomfort. That just comes with the nature of this. And I don't mean it. I really don't. I'm simply trying to conduct an investigation. But after speaking with Deputy Edwards and gaining some wisdom from him, okay, I'm not going to step on your rights. And I do not think at this time, okay, from what the sum of everything that I've gathered, I do not think that you've committed a crime, okay? And I don't want to overstep my bounds as an officer by trying to force you to do something, or try to force you to do something that is in direct violation of your rights. I have rights, you have rights. That's the way that I police. I want to be fair. Firm but fair within the law. And at this time, after speaking with Deputy Edwards, I do not feel like that I have enough evidence or probable cause to make you or try to force you to identify yourself, okay? And so with that, I'm going to leave you. I don't know your name, and that's all right. I don't think that you've committed a crime, and I do apologize for inconvenience. That's what the word I was looking for. Sometimes you can't provide security without inconvenience, and that is a part of my job. So, like I said,
It's not a part of his job. We've just established that they do not provide security. That is 100% propaganda.
have a good day.
If there's one thing that I do very, very well on my channel, folks, is highlight police hypocrisy. I don't know why, but I just fucking can't stand it.
And I apologize for your inconvenience. But I am going to be leaving. And like I said, I don't think that at this time I have probable cause to think that you have committed a crime. So therefore, I'm terminating my investigation. Okay?
Yeah. I need a CAD number. Can you write it down for me, please?
You could.
Now, let me ask you guys something. Why the hell can't these officers speak to auditors and cop watchers like this? They don't. They speak to somebody like this who has a call of a child being naked. And I will say this, okay, just because I want to make something clear. I don't think the videographer is guilty. I don't think so, okay? There is something that he said in the video earlier that I didn't show you guys. I'll show it when I do the edits on the video. He says something. He said, why don't you go back and call or get a hold of the caller and find out what the description of the people is? If the guy was guilty, he wouldn't be telling the cop how to find the actual criminal, right? And the cop, instead of saying, you know what, you're right, hold on a second, let me go and find out a little bit more. Let me go and find out the description. You know, maybe I'll find out, I'll talk to the caller and say, hey, okay, does this guy have a fucking long hair with the mullet? You know what I mean? Does he have a Hector haircut? That's what I would do. I'll go try and find out. But he tells the cop, go do that. And the cop's like, no, don't tell me how to do my job. What? Like I said, I don't think the videographer is guilty what he's being accused of. I just want to make that clear. I felt like I had to put all the options on the table. And that's kind of what had me thinking, like, shit, man. What if we do our videos and some fucking horrible person, a real criminal, uses what we teach him to get away with fucking crimes? Like, damn, I don't really want that shit, right? I guess that's part of what we do. But like I said, nonetheless, I had to weigh it out. Do I believe this guy? I told you I had to watch the video twice before I even knew that I was going to share it. So, like I said, I don't think the man is guilty of what he's being accused of.
You can call Jackson County Dispatch 911 and let them know that you were just stopped by Officer Weaver at the Jackson County Extension Office.
Now that's an emergency line.
Uh-huh.
Do you have a?
I do. I have a regular landline if you'd like that. It's 606-287-9979.
Okay.
Okay. As a courtesy to you, if you give me just a second, if dispatch has a CAD up and running at this time, I'll get that for you.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That video is pretty much over, guys. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do see his police vehicle. I didn't see that earlier, see? Sometimes I miss some things. His vehicle does say police, and the vehicle behind him did say sheriff. But nonetheless, we don't have websites for either one of them. And this video it's kind of important to me, in my opinion, because it made me think a lot about what I'm doing. It made me weigh out everything. And I gotta tell you, I do this channel, I do what I do for the law-abiding citizen. And I'm not talking about somebody who fucking runs a red light on accident or fucking likes to speed down a fucking on a street that nobody's on. Just, I mean, there's some shit out there that I don't believe. Like, for instance, marijuana laws. I never believed marijuana should have been illegal anyways. So there are some laws that I believe, you know, we as a people should be lenient on. I don't believe all the laws are beneficial to the people. But at the same time, I do believe that some laws are beneficial to the people. Like murder, fucking shit like that, robbing banks, rape, fucking, you know, shit like that I think should be illegal. And I think these cops should be investigating these types of crimes and not send fucking 5 police cars with about 8 fucking cops to a call for a man with the camera or a man sleeping on a freaking on a sidewalk or on a bus station. You know what I mean? It's like then they surround you and all that shit. Yeah. Anyhow, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit this morning. I wanted to go live. I'm trying to set up my streaming room here a little bit. But other than that, I think we're done here, guys. I hope you guys learned a little bit. I mean, you guys already know what the hell we're doing and why we're doing it. I mean, a lot of you guys don't have names like Armchair Observer, Cop Block Hot Springs. You know what I mean? The Homeless Scrub Below. What's up, brother? Good to see you, man. Real Jingy, Air Cooled Accountability. You guys already know what's going on. You guys already know what we're doing, why we do it. You guys already, a lot of you know your rights. So thank you all for tuning in. We're going to go ahead and shut this one down. And we will be working on this video for the main channel. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.